While the world expected a celebration of Yamaha's engineering prowess, the atmosphere inside the Buriram garage suggested a project on the verge of a technical collapse. The morning sun over the Buriram International Circuit usually signals the start of high-octane optimism, but for the Monster Energy Yamaha team, day 2 of the official tests felt more like a damage control operation. On the surface, the team was there to refine their most ambitious project in 2 decades, the transition to a V4 engine architecture. However, as the temperature climbed, so did the tension. Observations from the pit wall described a solemn environment, one where the usual camaraderie between engineers and mechanics was replaced by frantic pointing at telemetry screens and long, silent stares at data sets. Fabio Quartararo, the man who has carried the weight of this manufacturer since 2021, sat in the back of the garage with his arms folded, his body language speaking louder than any official press release could. He wasn't just waiting for a setup change, he was waiting for answers that the bike didn't seem ready to give. The V4 project was designed to close the gap to the European manufacturers, yet in these early stages it has introduced a set of variables that are proving difficult to calculate. Reporters on the ground noted that the team's management, usually open for brief comments, remained behind closed doors for much of the afternoon. This wasn't the behavior of a team that had found its rhythm. It was the behavior of a team realizing that the mountain they have to climb is much steeper than originally anticipated. As the session progressed, the revolution seemed to be stalling under the weight of its own complexity, leaving everyone in the paddock asking if Yamaha had made a tactical error in their pursuit of raw power. For a rider like Fabio Quartararo, precision is a requirement, but the new V4 engine is behaving like a blunt instrument in a world of scalpels. To understand why the 2021 world champion is visibly shaken, one must understand his surgical riding style. Fabio thrives on corner speed, the ability to carry momentum through the apex with a bike that responds predictably to every millimeter of throttle input. The new V4, however, has introduced what insiders call aggressive output surges. Telemetry data from Sector 3, the most technical part of the Thai circuit, showed the bike struggling to find traction as the Frenchman attempted to pick it up on the exit. Instead of the smooth, linear power delivery that defined the old inline-4 era, the V4 delivers a wild hit of torque that disrupts the chassis balance. According to Paddock Whispers, Fabio requested a total overhaul of the engine mapping mid-session, a drastic move that signals a lack of fundamental trust in the electronics. He was seen gesturing to his technicians, mimicking a loss of rear grip that seems to occur at the most crucial moments of the corner. This isn't just a matter of going faster, it's a matter of the bike's DNA changing in a way that contradicts the rider's natural instincts. The frustration isn't merely about the lap times, which remain competitive on paper, but about the feeling required to sustain those times over a 26-lap race distance. If the rider cannot predict how the bike will react to the throttle, he cannot push to the 101% required in modern MotoGP. This disconnect between the rider's intent and the machine's execution has created a rift in the garage. As engineers scramble to detune the very power they worked so hard to create, leading to a technical paradox that threatens the entire 2026 development cycle. Toprak Razgatlioglu built his reputation on being the most extreme braker in the world, but his main weapon is currently being neutralized by a bike that refuses to stay still. When Yamaha signed the Turkish phenom, they knew they were getting a rider who could do things with a front tire that shouldn't be physically possible. But for Toprak's stop-and-go style to work, he needs absolute stability during the transition from high speed to heavy deceleration. At turns 1 and 3 in Buriram, observers noted that the Yamaha V4 was displaying unsettled behavior under hard braking. As the weight shifts forward, the chassis seems to struggle with the inertia of the new engine layout, causing the rear to dance and the front to lose the laser-like precision Toprak requires. For a rider who relies on stoppies and deep trail braking to overtake, a bike that swims or feels vague at the entry is a liability. Reports suggest that Toprak tried multiple suspension configurations and engine brake settings, yet the feeling remained elusive. This is a critical setback because Toprak's value to the team lies in his ability to find time where others find fear. If the bike doesn't give him the confidence to drop the anchor, his competitive advantage evaporates. The technical team is now facing a dilemma. Toprak needs a rigid, stable front end, while Fabio needs a compliant, flowing chassis. Trying to satisfy both with a brand new engine architecture is proving to be a logistical and engineering nightmare. The tension mentioned by sources isn't just emotional. It is a mechanical tension between two different philosophies of how a motorcycle should enter a corner. If they cannot stabilize the bike under braking, Yamaha risks wasting the talent of one of the most aggressive overtakers the sport has ever seen. Yamaha finally found the top speed they were looking for, but it has come at a price that might be too high for their riders to pay. For years, the narrative around Yamaha was simple. Give them more horsepower and they will win. In 2026, the engineers delivered exactly that. On the long straights of Buriram, the V4 was clocked at speeds that rivaled the dominant Ducatis, finally ending the era of Yamaha being a sitting duck. However, the power paradox has now emerged. In modern racing, peak horsepower is useless if it cannot be transferred to the asphalt efficiently. The V4's power transition from mid-corner to exit is currently described as unrefined and wild. It's a classic case of be careful what you wish for. The team has plenty of horses, but they are currently unbridled. This creates a massive physical toll on the riders. Instead of the bike doing the work, the riders are forced to use their bodies to counteract the machine's tendency to wheelie or slide. Over a single time attack lap, this is manageable. But during the long-run simulations on day 2, the staggering power became a liability. Lap times began to fade as the rear tire overheated from the constant aggressive spinning. Insiders claim that the aggressive behavior on corner exits is a result of the engine's firing order and internal inertia not yet being perfectly synced with the electronics. The engineers are now in a race against time to soften the engine's character without losing the top speed gains they fought so hard to achieve. It is a delicate balancing act where a 1% mistake in the code can lead to a high-speed high side. The paddock is watching closely, as this technical struggle will determine whether Yamaha returns to the front or remains a top-speed king with no trophies to show for it. Beyond the official garage doors, rumors are circulating that the V4 project might be facing a fundamental design flaw that electronics alone cannot fix. In the high-stakes world of MotoGP, news travels fast and the paddock whispers regarding Yamaha are growing louder. While the official line is one of ongoing refinement, several veteran mechanics from rival teams have noted that the Yamaha looks heavy and unbalanced through the quick changes of direction. There is speculation that the placement of the V4 engine within the chassis has created a center of gravity issue that is causing the instability during deceleration, reported by the riders. Some insiders suggest that Fabio and Toprak have already requested significant changes to the frame, which would be a massive undertaking this close to the season opener. The rumors point to a disconnect between the simulations in Japan and the reality of the track in Thailand. While the computer models suggested the V4 would be a seamless transition, the human element, the feedback from 2 world-class riders, is telling a very different story. There are even whispers of political tension within the garage, as the Japanese engineers defend their data while the European crew chiefs push for a more radical change in direction. This internal friction is common in major projects, but the solemn atmosphere suggests that the stakes are higher than usual. With the 2026 regulation shift representing a reset for the entire sport, Yamaha cannot afford to start on the back foot. The whispers aren't just gossip. They are a reflection of the genuine concern that one of the sport's most iconic manufacturers might be heading into a development cul-de-sac from which there is no easy escape. As the Buriram test concludes, Yamaha finds itself at a crossroads where anger must be converted into engineering solutions, or the 2026 season could be over before it begins. The second day of testing didn't end with high fives, it ended with a wake-up call. The V4 project is not a failure, but it is a raw entity that requires a level of polish the team hasn't yet found. The strong reactions from Fabio and Toprak are actually being viewed by some as a positive sign. It shows that the riders have high expectations and are unwilling to settle for mediocrity. They know the potential is there, the top speed figures prove it. But potential doesn't win championships. Controllability does. Yamaha management now faces a critical window before the next official test. They must decide whether to continue fine-tuning the current package or to make the drastic changes their riders are screaming for. The anger seen in the garage is the fuel that must drive the factory to work 24/7. In the new era of MotoGP, the margin for error has shrunk to 0. Rival manufacturers like Ducati and KTM are not waiting for Yamaha to catch up. The staggering data gathered in Thailand will now be sent back to Iwata, where the future of the M1 will be decided. Will they listen to the surgeon and the stop-and-go king, or will they stay the course with their engineering philosophy? The answer will determine if the V4 is the engine that brings Yamaha back to glory, or if it is the project that finally breaks the bond between a champion rider and his team. The world of MotoGP is waiting, but for Yamaha, the clock is already ticking.